Netflix.com with your daily news update. Okay, here we are on October the 12th in the year of our Lord 2025. Let's jump over here and take a look at our appetizer snippets.
What's up, guys? Benny. The stock market has been on a roll lately. It really makes you wonder, when is the roller coaster going to drop? But nonetheless, it's a really fun ride to the top. Many stocks are at all-time highs, except for Netflix. Would you look at this? This is not great. Here's the 1 month trajectory. Things are slumping, slouching, and collapsing. And why would that be exactly? Well, we had a small hand to play in this stock collapse for Netflix, which for a stock as big as Netflix, by the way, dropping 7.7% in the past month, 81 points. Like that means that you're losing billions of dollars. Well, what was our hand in this? Well, we assisted in the Netflix cancellation campaign because, well, people should cancel Netflix. Why? Well, because Netflix is propagandizing your children with sexually explicit, radical, gender-bending content that, of course, is utterly indefensible, grotesque, and should be illegal, quite frankly. There are laws on the books saying that you can...
Now, folks, you see the difference between when the liberals, leftists do something stupid, we just walk away from them. You know, if you want to do that, you're going to do it without us, without the conservatives. Okay? But when a conservative does something that the leftists don't like, they try to physically hurt them. Isn't that amazing? Or protest their stores, or burn down their stores, or take bombs and throw through a Tesla dealership windshield, or store window, or scratch up cars, or blow up Tesla cars. See, that's the difference between the conservatives and the leftists. They have no reasoning.
Can't, expose children to pornographic material, and that there are various violations of FCC rules for cursing and swearing and sexual content on FCC licenses. I mean, they should apply that kind of stuff to the children's shows. Trans content aimed at children drive users away. Netflix shares slumped again this week as they ended the week off their biggest decline since April 4th. The slide comes on the back of a subscriber desertion driven by the revulsion of trans content aimed at children. Netflix had been struggling as it chooses to stream animated programs that expose small children to homosexuality, gay kisses, and little boys in dresses prancing around for their gay dads. That's just like the tip of the iceberg. The amount of stuff that's come out about Netflix, it is just like it's just a grooming operation. It's just all it is. Elon Musk urging his 227 million followers to drop their Netflix subscription, accusing the streamer of pushing trans messaging on kids shows. Netflix executives' pro-transgender social media posts surfaced during kids' content controversy. Just one thing after another after another. Here's a Netflix executive, the vice president of inclusion. What the hell is that? Netflix stock obviously tanked last week. We'll see what happens this week. Netflix stock down 30 points. And the market is up 100. Here's us contributing by asking a member of Congress, yo, you gonna investigate Netflix? And he says, absolutely. Would you be in favor of the Netflix leadership being asked to sort of testify over this radical sexual ideology?
Yeah, they need to be brought in. We need to find out what their agenda is. We can't allow it. It is complete indoctrination, and it needs to stop.
I tell you something about political violence, too, that's bothering me. After the Speaker of the House of Minnesota was assassinated, tragic. Every Republican and every Democrat that was there showed up and voted to condemn violence in the U.S. House. A few Democrats didn't show up, interestingly. AOC was one of them. But then when Charlie was assassinated, look what happened. Over 100 Democrats voted no, voted present, or didn't show up. And AOC was the leader of the people saying, let's vote no. In both cases, you had two political assassinations. And she is kind of the spiritual leader of the House Democrats. She didn't vote yes on either one of them to condemn political violence. Why? And then you now look at what's happening in Virginia. This guy running for attorney general. Out here wishing for bullets to be put in the head of his Republican political opponent, wishing for his children to die. Now there are reports that he said we need a few police officers to die and that'll change their behavior. And you can't find a Democrat to disown this.
Right.
Why? Who are they afraid of? I tell you something about.
Someone called the cops on this man for this sign.
Get out of our neighborhood. You are not welcome here. No one needs your hate. You're a disgusting, awful person. Then go at home and speak your truth at home.
No.
You want to be out in the cold with your face all covered so no one can see you, holding your big mean sign. You are in my neighborhood where I am raising my family, holding signs that are hateful to people here.
There's nothing hateful about it.
Then why do you have it?
Is it true?
It is not true.
Then what's the truth?
The truth is, get the out of my neighborhood.
See, they always are like that. You try to engage with them, they're not really going to engage. They're going to get triggered. They're going to flip out like this. That's pretty much the prototypical leftist. And presented with truth that they don't like, all they can do is just flip out this way. And the problem is, she said it's a big mean sign. When people come with the truth and you think it's mean, that's how things that are not true, things that are not real, become real. It's mean for you to say that this man is a man. Therefore, he's going to go into the women's restroom, locker room, bathroom, wherever he wants to go. Women in there are afraid to say that he's the man because they don't want to be seen as mean, because a ladies like that call on the mean for stating the obvious. But then by that time it's too late. You got Paul Bunyan in the women's locker room with his stuff all over the place. It's not a very good look.
That's the most insane interview I've ever heard.
So on election night, I went to pick up my daughter from water polo practice, and she's 12, and she got in the car and she was crying. And I said, did someone punch you? Like, water polo is a rough sport. I was like, did someone hit you? Did the coach yell at you? What happened? And she said, Mom, Trump won. Trump's going to win. And what if I get raped and I need to have an abortion? This is from a 12-year-old, my 12-year-old daughter. And so it was really a reminder of how scary this time is for people, and how important it is for Democrats to have strategies, both at the state level and the federal level, to make sure that we can continue to protect people's rights.
Hold on, Shawty. You think we believe that sugar honey iced tea? Your 12-year-old talking about that something ain't right. At 12? What are you exposing your daughter to that she put a in a together at 12? They're not talking about that in school. Well, maybe at their school. Your 12-year-old said that to you? Really? Your 12-year-old. That's a whole, her fear when Trump gets elected is that she got to have an abortion. Your 12-year-old is thinking about if Trump get elected. That means you a terrible parent. That means you overexposing her to Trump derangement syndrome. Ain't no 12-year-old thinking about that. That's their biggest issue. Your 12-year-old's biggest issue is Planned Parenthood. Shut the front door, man.
Okay, see, that's amazing, folks. These people on the left, they're just absolutely berserk. He's absolutely right. I mean, what's a 12-year-old doing thing? I have a 12-year-old daughter. She didn't say anything like that when Trump got elected. Amazing, huh? All right, let's jump over here to my Rumble page. This is the video that you're watching right now, episode 1713. We've got the description box open. We're going to start off with some information here from Wendy Bell Radio, Weekends with Wendy. I like this because they just kind of get together and talk about the things that, just kind of happen. They don't have a regular platform or a regular script. It's just things that come to mind with them. So let's go ahead and take a listen to what they have to say.
One thing that we were talking about early was this, I think this shutdown stuff I think this is going to be so much more punishing to the Democrats than they have any concept. And when you have the president stepping in to help women, infants, and children get money so that they can eat, right? When you help the military and you pay the military, and now you have a judge overruling the lib judge who was blocking Trump's ability to use the National Guard, which is completely predicated on precedent and is completely within the purview of his job as the executive to do this, right? He's not going in to clean up these areas. He's going in to protect federal agents and federal buildings. That is the point. And it's all being conflated. J.B. Pritzker looks like a giant turd. Brandon Johnson sounds more and more like the low IQ clown that he is. And more people are sitting back saying, what the hell is going on in my city? It's crazy. Why do I have an echo?
And
You have an echo? No?
I don't.
Okay.
Uh, and you have Trump now telling Hegseth to uh,
Go after
pay
the
the
cartels.
troops.
Oh, yeah, pay the troops.
Oh,
That's what I said,
to
yeah.
pay the troops. Yeah,
And then they're announcing this initiative in the sea. You're going to come anywhere within a perimeter of the United States, anywhere near the Gulf of America, and we will obliterate you. I'm like, damn. The only thing that's left to do, I think, is to completely blow up education, to expose higher education for the fraud and money laundering operation that it is. Brock is muted. I'm going to unmute his mic. I'm not. There we go. I don't know why you were muted. So I'm watching his face and he's okay. You figure out what's going on your end and I will keep, no.
Okay, I'm trying to see if you still get an echo?
No, I hopped out of Rumble. I'm watching on StreamYard, so I'm not looking at it. I figured it was on my side.
Oh, that's why you were getting it. Yeah, you have to mute Rumble.
I did, and it was still coming through in some capacity, so sorry for the confusion, guys.
I've been having technical issues all morning long.
Okay, I got to jump in here, folks. All right. Brock has been doing this for decades. I mean, he's an expert at behind the scenes producing videos. I'm doing this by myself. But even Brock can experience technical difficulties, okay? So, just I'm sorry that I have technical difficulties, but I'm just saying this because, it happens, especially when you're doing live streams. So let's continue.
It's been fun. But in addition to no gas.
Yes.
That's been fun.
Yeah. So
good times
Rumble
all
Studio
around.
Working. So
let me ask you guys this. Did you see the winner of the Peace Prize come out and say Trump should have gotten it? I mean, are you listening and paying attention to the flood of criticism now against this, established, erudite, elite, panel of the finest people who can judge who is the biggest deserving recipient, right? And they're like, screw that board. You guys are all corrupt as the FDA.
Well,
right?
The funny thing is she came out and said that after Obama put up a tweet saying peace in the Middle East, but never said anything.
No mention of Trump. Right.
So she's like, he deserves it. And I told you this morning, sure, they've decided this in January, February, who was going to win the Nobel Peace Prize. Whatever. Trump doesn't give a shit if he wins it or not. But the fact of the matter is this was the perfect time for the Nobel Peace Prize people to say, you know what, this is about
of
peace.
All times.
This happens. It's going to be and we're going to do it from the beginning of the start of peace where people stand up and be the opposition to the end where they get the deal done. And they could have done it that way. And
I would never have gone for a never. How do you take a woman from Venezuela who talks about democracy, who's done nothing to make Venezuela democratic or save lives or caused peace, and you piggyback that against I mean, it has to be so obnoxious. It's almost like that's where I think we are. I think it's like a game show, and you and I are just waiting for the veil to come off of it. You cannot be more ridiculously deserving of people's respect for a job well done. Take everything out of everything else and prizes, flush them down the toilet. You can't look at what this president is doing and being a member of the media and slam him 24 hours a day. And it's become so lugubriously stunning how stupid it is that now even partially awake people are like, what you talking about, Willis? Like that reporter in that Antifa roundtable who was sitting next to um, Nick Sorter, and she's like, "Look, Brandy Cruz."
She was on the one sitting next to him had the black guy who got beat up in the police.
No, I understand, but she was sitting in that environment.
He was sitting on the end who had TBS.
So she was like, "So I got out of the cubby and I went to go and see what was going on in Seattle first."
Friday.
Seattle, and she got to see what CHOP was all about in Seattle and this total anarchy, crazy, malignant, what? And she was like, "What the flip?" And her, reversal now to just be like, "Wake up." It's fascinating. It's fascinating. Fascinating to watch.
So I'm going to totally go off of
Wow.
total 180 because you guys will enjoy this. Do you want to announce
Go ahead.
the news you got?
I reached out to Gary Varvel on Friday, our wonderful cartoonist, political cartoonist, but also almost like an evangelist. He's such a great biblical scholar, and he creates such wonderful references that give you hope. And
I read his Substack every day.
he's really exquisite. He's just exquisite.
Artist
And
name.
we've so enjoyed him. And so I wrote him and I was like, many of you have commented it would be cool if Gary's cartoon that he made of you guys could be made into something merchandise wise that we could enjoy. And so I reached out to Gary on Friday and I was like, "Hey, before I went to bed, what do we have to do in order to pay you to get the right to have the license to those cartoons that we might, how does that work? I don't want to do anything and step on." And he wrote me back. He's like, "Wendy, those cartoons were a gift to you. There is no fee. I will send you an email now that releases them to you. And this is that." And then he sent us the high res images of them. And do you have one to pull up so that you can remind? It's behind Brock. You see it behind Brock.
Yeah.
But it's beautiful. And I was particularly stunned because he gave me a stack of stuff. And that meant the world to me. So we're going to, and we just talked with our vendors, which is Brock's brother and sister-in-law, who are lovely people and live in Gettysburg. And they're raising their daughter there. And this is giving Brock's sister-in-law, Jolene, an opportunity to kind of create a side business for herself. And she's super artistic. And she's really immersed herself in it. She's learning the business end of this. And it's fun. We're like giving a mom an opportunity to create her own small business. And so she's going to create some merchandise for us that I think it's going to be really beautiful. My goal, and I remember the mugs that we did, the paint chipped off. And I was really I loved the campfire style mug, but it just, all the letters came off. I was so disappointed by that. And we're like, if we etch these things, there is no restriction about putting them in the dishwasher. You don't have to worry about them getting old and looking bad. And so that's kind of where we were yesterday. We spent a while on the phone talking about that, which is cool.
Yeah,
now I've said everything, Brock. Go ahead.
No.
All right, I'm going to go ahead and pause it there. But what they talked about in the beginning about how Trump is going to step in and make sure that the Department of Defense, is going to put together enough money. I'm sure they've got, in Washington, D.C., they've got billions of dollars just laying around that was allocated for something. And it needs to be reappropriated to something else. You got to use those big ass words for you. Okay, you got this pile of money here. Let's use it someplace else. Okay, whatever. But at any rate, that's something that the Democrats, that's going to screw their whole plan up. What do you mean the service members aren't getting paid? Yeah, we're paying them. We're going to go ahead and pay them. Now, when this is all over and the money does get allocated from wherever, the Federal Reserve that we borrow it from, then, it's all going to be water under the bridge. I'm hoping for 61 days because after 61 days, Donald Trump has control of everything. He can cut things off. He can end programs, period. End of story. That's what I'm hoping for this last 61 days. But let's go ahead and click this Rumble link here. And let me show you that this video does come from Wendy Bell Radio, Weekends with Wendy. I'm following her channel, subscribe to her channel. I've given her a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Okay, let's jump back here. And Debbie BS gave me a nice chat. Anyone out there would like to chat with me? I would certainly appreciate it. USA Watchdog. Military stops the cheating in 2026 midterms with Dr. Jerome Corsi. Now, I used to listen to Dr. Jerome Corsi. I mean, he had a program every day, and I would listen to it every freaking day. And then, you know what? It was a YouTube channel, so he told too much truth. So therefore, unfortunately, his channel got scratched. But let's listen to what he has to say on Greg Hunter's USA Watchdog.
And in Illinois. I'm Greg Hunter. Welcome to USAWatchdog.com. If you look at what's going on with this Antifa and the Portland riots and the governors fighting back, in California and in Illinois and in Oregon, and then you have this general, which you want to talk to about my next guest, saying he's going to protect a general of the national, he's going to protect the protesters, the general of the National Guard. The last time I had this guest on, he outlined the voter fraud problem that he was working on. He's working on with a close friend of the president also, but also too that the intel agencies caught in massive voter fraud. Dr. Jerome Corsi, Dr. Jerome Corsi, to tell you, 30 books, PhD in science from Harvard, political science, I should say. His latest thing is all about this voter fraud. That's been quiet, but I was thinking, is all of this upheaval and unrest and Antifa and all this money flowing in, and all these groups that have been pegged with funding all these violent protests, is that all have to do with voter fraud? And my next guest, Dr. Jerome Corsi, says yes. Dr. Corsi, thanks for joining us today on USAWatchdog.com.
Great pleasure to be back with you, Greg. Thank you.
Let's start with the government shutdown. And I called you on this and said, I'm just thinking that this has to do with protecting their voters. They want all this Obamacare for illegal aliens. And you said, yes, I can address that. Yes, it's all linked. Tell me how this is all linked. The government shutdown is linked to voter fraud.
Well, the Democratic Party has now put its future into supporting illegal immigrants and getting illegal immigrants into the country in massive numbers to vote for Democrats. I mean, the Democrats can't win an election, I don't think, legitimately in the numbers they want to win them in. So the Democrats have decided they'll just start stealing elections. And this goes back 20, 30 years. There's been a long-term plan of the Democratic Party, the radicals in the Democratic Party. It started in states like Colorado, where the Democrats began to realize that they could use various techniques of segmenting voters and getting voters to oppose one another. And then they finally realized, why do we bother with all of this? Let's just steal elections by making up votes or getting illegals to vote or criminals to vote or just vote people who don't exist and get away with it. So, the most radical schemes have been not only bringing all the illegals in and getting things like motor voter. If you get a driver's license with a green card, then you're automatically registered to vote, even though a green card is not proof of citizenship. You're not a citizen. But since you've got a driver's license, they say, well, you can vote. And that's a back door the Democrats create. And then they say you're suppressing the vote if you don't allow this to happen. Then they create algorithms in the state board of election databases that can create millions of false records, duplicate records. They'll just change the name slightly or the address or the middle initial, and they get this newly created false vote, a legitimate state ID, so it can vote and seem like a real voter, even though the person doesn't exist. And that counts in a mail-in ballot scheme as a legitimate vote that is completely contrived from within the computer. And that's where I say the intelligence agencies are involved, because these algorithms, these codes are so embedded in every state that I've looked at, and that Andrew Paquette, who's a computer genius that figured this out. We have a large section of our website, God's Five Stones, G-O-D, S no apostrophe, and you spell the word five, F-I-V-E, stones is plural.com, and you can see all the work we've done showing these algorithms are in the State Board of Elections, and they are using mail-in voting fraud. So the shutdown now threatened, the Democrats are going to fight desperately over this for, two reasons. Number one, they are deathly afraid that the government is going to cut off all the benefits the Democrats have voted to keep illegals in the country. Yeah. Free hotel rooms in New York City, free credit cards, free medical care through Medicaid or Medicare, all the positive money, that's been flowed into keeping the Catholic Church was getting $9 billion, huge amounts of money, just simply to support illegal immigrants coming into the country. Is if closing our borders, we were committing the crime. And so once you can have non-voters paid by the Democratic Party, or votes that are made up, that don't exist, and you can control the state boards of election, you can't lose an election. You can win them all, because you can win them within the computer. We're losing this election. We need 5,000 mail-in ballots. So 5,000 of our fake voters so-called request a mail-in ballot, which is printed. The numbers match. You run the printed one. You don't mail it. You don't mail a ballot to somebody who doesn't exist, but you print it and run it through the tabulating machine, and now you've got a vote that counts, even though the person doesn't exist. And because no one goes out to check to see if that voter is real. The Democrats know this is lying and cheating. But the Democratic Party's gotten to the point with the intelligence agencies where they think that they've got a game on, and it's never going to be found out. And so right now, the shutdown is of desperate importance to Donald Trump to win, and he cannot afford to give up on what the Democrats want to fund in their woke, insane agenda.
So number one is they're cutting off the benefits. What's number two? What's the second one?
Well, number two is they're going to then, there's, I think, three things Trump is doing: cutting off the benefits, and also, by the way, posting signs in the airports about here's how you self-deport, encouraging them just to leave. Number two, you get ICE very active in the states, where ICE is identifying, rounding up, and deporting illegal immigrants. And third, if you need to, you bring in the National Guard or the U.S. Army and under the Insurrection Act, and you take control of these states. And if the governors like Pritzker in Chicago or these various mayors want to say, well, we're not going to cooperate with ICE, they're committing crimes. They need to be arrested and indicted, because it's a crime to interfere with the work of ICE and deportation. It's illegal to be in the United States, and you can't say that rounding these people up, especially the criminal illegal immigrants, whom the Democrats want to just let out of jail. This is, again, we're facing a massive ideology, the Democratic Party, that went communist, and now it's just gone anarchist. I wrote a book about this, The Truth About Neo-Marxism, Cultural Maoism, and Anarchy. So we're in the anarchy stage of the Democratic Party, and, Barack Obama, by creating this Russian collusion hoax, which they knew was a lie, committed treason. They're trying to remove from the White House a duly elected president, Donald Trump. And they stole an election in 2020. Treason was committed. And these groups like Antifa, Black Lives Matter, are terrorist organizations. It's not aging Catholics like me who like the Latin Mass. We're law abiding, and we're citizens. That we like the Latin Mass doesn't make us terrorists. unless you think that God is Satan. And these people are so twisted in the Democratic Party with the woke agenda that their language games have confused them so that black is white and, sex isn't your gender. Gender isn't your sex.
So this fight, so they're willing. So if they get this benefits cut off, and that's what part of what the big beautiful bill was, cutting off the benefits, right?
Yep.
But if they cut these benefits off, their voters have no reason to stay or no reason to vote for them. Is that what this fight's about?
Yeah, and no ability to stay. That's even worse problem. They can't afford to stay. Is that, if they can't be hired, if they can't work, if they can't do all these things, there's no economic cord to hold them here. That was the whole point in giving the money to the Catholic Church.
Yep.
Catholic Church has got an LGBT agenda, and the Pope believes open borders for every state except the Vatican.
Yeah,
Vatican.
That's yeah. Pope, please open your gates. Show us how it's done.
Yeah.
And he shouldn't. That's so anti-Bible. It says you want to render unto Caesar what is Caesar, and unto God's what is God's. You should obey the government. Is basically what it says. In our government is a government founded basically on the Bible. The Constitution was the Bible. Anyway,
look,
go ahead.
The Catholic Church has gone to such a leftist agenda.
I used to be Catholic, so I agree. I'm no longer Catholic.
It's gone to support so many, acts. I mean, the LGBT agenda, which is this, there's always been people who have been LGBT, but to normalize it, to celebrate it, to demand that we respect it, and we can't say anything negative about it. These are now entering into the arena of supporting what are essentially evil activities. When you really understand, the homosexuality and their sacrilegious nature towards Jesus Christ and their displays and gay pride events of Christ on the cross and committing, sexual acts with homosexuals. I mean, the abusive nature of a lot of these activities is disguised and hidden from the public. It's just not these two men who love each other. I mean, who cares? But the point is, when it gets into the, sadomasochism and other real activities that are at the heart of this agenda, and modifying sexually children who not even reach the age of puberty, telling them that they can become boys if they're girls or girls if they're boys. I mean, or there's not two sexes, there's any number of genders, so that you can be whatever you want. These people need psychiatrists. This is schizophrenia.
Right. Yes.
And we can't let schizophrenia rule. But
okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there, and I hope what he says about, I don't have a problem seeing a National Guardsman standing there at the polls when I go to vote next November. I don't have a problem with it at all. I'd like to see 2 or 3 of them standing there, because they're not going to bother me. They're not going to sway my vote one way or the other. I don't know. How do you feel, folks? Do you think it would be horrible if there was some military standing at the polling place when you go to vote to make sure that people that are going in, they don't have to check people. All they have to do is stand there. Now, if they see somebody acting suspicious, then yeah, talk to them. But I don't know. And the problem is, like he said, giving them driver's license. I've heard and I've shared out numerous times that semi-truck drivers that can't even read English or speak English are driving 80-ton tractor trailers down the highway, and some people have been killed because of this. Illegals coming in, getting driver's license. I don't know if I shared this or not, but I saw one video where the name on the driver's license of this illegal alien was no name given. Unfreaking believable. And how these people on the left allow this to happen. No name given. Isn't that against the law to issue a license like that? And no one is held accountable. I hope someday they do. Let me click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come from Greg Hunter's USA Watchdog. I am following his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. All right, let's jump back here and see what's next with Devory Darkins. Trump officially drops chilling news on federal workers as John Bolton faces brutal indictment. Yes. Here we go.
Here, military personnel have showed up at a food bank, given the fact that they received their last paycheck during this government shutdown. It's an interesting story. Take a listen.
And I find this very interesting, too. They got paid at the first of the month. They're supposed to get paid on the 15th, and from what I understand, Trump is going to make that happen, that they'll get paid on the 15th. But do they normally show up to food banks between paychecks? I don't know. Maybe they're just like planning ahead and trying to get some food stocked up in case they don't get paid. I don't know, but it seems awfully amazing to me that they've got paid on the first. Their next paycheck isn't due to the 15th, but they're showing up at food places, food shelters already. Let's take a listen.
As I take a step aside here, there is quite a bit of military members and their families in line because of this government shutdown. We're in day 9 of it, and they're here for a food pantry. There's all sorts of food that is available, and I spoke with some military member spouses, and I spoke with some department heads here at the ASYMCA on why this is so important. What's the difference in the amount of people that you've seen from today to previously?
So when we first started coming, there definitely wasn't this amount of people. It was a lot, but it wasn't this amount to where it wrapped around the building. But lately it has been a lot. Like, we were here last week and we were in line for like 2 hours.
In a normal week, we usually run out of food around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Last week we ran out of food about 10:30.
Okay, so the bottom line is the American people are starting to feel the pain of a government shutdown, and that's exactly what the Democrats want. Republicans and President Trump believes they're going to be able to get their way with this. They've done the right thing. Clean CR. Okay, no spin on it. No priorities from Republicans on it. Just continue the existing spending. And Democrats say, nope, we don't want to do that. We want to add our own sauce on it. And now we are where we are. So why don't you guys give me your forecast, your estimate? What do you think will play out over the next 7 days? Do you believe the Democrats will cave and get the government back open? Or do you think this is going to get worse? Let me know in the comment section below. Now let's go to our next update, and this is fun. So John Bolton, it's being reported by MSDNC, okay, out of all people, that he's on the verge of receiving a federal indictment. Take a listen.
Bolton, former national security advisor turned sharp critic of Donald Trump, is expected to be the subject of a complaint or even an indictment as early as next week. MSNBC, citing 2 sources, is reporting exclusively that the acting U.S. attorney in Maryland is moving forward quickly to seek criminal charges against Bolton. They reportedly relate to claims that he improperly kept classified national security information in his Maryland home. His home was searched in August. Bolton's lawyer insists that his client, John Bolton, did nothing improper. It is the second instance of targeting a prominent Trump critic.
You know what the interesting thing is about John Bolton and his situation? He's been looking at an indictment since the Biden administration. This isn't something that was manufactured under Trump. This is something that he was already facing. But obviously, MSDNC isn't really going to focus on that key detail. They're going to focus on the fact that he's been a Trump critic. Just because you're a Trump critic doesn't mean you don't deserve a federal indictment, okay? And if a jury of your peers can find that a federal indictment is warranted, then you got to make your case in court to defend yourself. It's exactly what the president had to do. And he wasn't successful, as you guys know, for obvious reasons. But I'm not feeling sorry for John Bolton. But hey, doesn't stop CNN from painting this picture to their audience that President Trump has weaponized the entire weight of the federal government against his political opponents. That's what they're saying. Take a listen.
Who's next here? Because there, of course, have been kind of lists out, and as Scott pointed out, the president freely talks about a lot of the people that he wants to go after. So here are some people that are under investigation right now. John Bolton, John Brennan, Lisa Cook, of course, Federal Reserve, Chris Krebs, Adam Schiff, Jack Smith, Miles Taylor. The public calls to investigate Reid Hoffman, Mark Milley, George Soros, Fani Willis, Chris Wray. This is quite an array of people. Scott Jennings, one person we've heard about is John Bolton, although it sounds like that investigation may have begun under the Biden administration.
Yeah, that started under Biden. And from what I read in the newspaper, they did find classified material, according to the reporting, in his house.
Yep, that's a very important detail from Scott Jennings there. And like I told you guys, MSDNC did not want to admit that this originated under the Biden administration. And you guys saw that graphic, how they try to say, yeah, the president's going after all these people. Listen, if they committed a crime, an investigation is warranted. I don't understand what the problem is. Now, when you think about President Trump, you clearly knew they went after him for malicious reasons, okay? It's just blatantly obvious. But one thing is for sure, I'm not convinced that any of these people will get convicted. And if they're convicted, I'm definitely not convinced they're going to serve any jail time. You let me know if you guys see it the same way. Now, according to MSDNC, if we circle back to them, here they are trying to minimize these charges and try to make their audience believe that there's really nothing here in regards to John Bolton. Take a listen.
There is what John Bolton's lawyer, Abby Lowell, has said in the past, which is that he has concluded that a lot of the records that are at issue or in dispute are ones that a longtime government official would have normally had in their home after serving in multiple presidencies. And I believe his lawyer pointed out at the time that these documents dated back to the George W. Bush presidency, so that they were pretty dated. I wish I could answer you more, I guess, definitively, but what we have thus far is that the U.S. Attorney's Office in Maryland is rather rapidly pursuing this case.
Well, that actually sounds familiar. When Letitia James and Fani Willis and Jack Smith rapidly pursued a case against Donald Trump, the 45th president at the time. So again, if they're looking for sympathy, they're not going to find it. Now, they can obviously scream into the echo chamber of their base and they'll get affirmation that what they're saying is true. But objectively speaking here, and just looking at everything that we've seen over the past decade, this is really par for the course, okay? This is normal business at this point. This is the new paradigm of our government, okay? They will continue to target each other because they've been doing it. To think they won't do it is really a blatant lie and being naive.
I don't know if you can put that one on the list exactly. Fani Willis has got, I mean, we could spend a whole hour discussing the ethical problems of Fani Willis. I mean, some of these people have real problems. And so to call them all vendettas, I'm not sure is accurate. But look, my view is there is a process here. In the case of Letitia James, in the case of Comey, really in the case of anybody, you wind up getting charged through a grand jury system. The grand jury looks at these things. They decide whether you should go to trial. Then you get your day in court. And that's what happened to Donald Trump here in New York. He got put through a process. And as Alyssa pointed out, the one that she pursued against him, the big judgment was vacated. So it looked like it was massive overreach in that particular case. At some juncture, we do have to have some trust in the process. These are ordinary citizens. These are our peers. These are just average Americans called into grand juries and juries to sort out what's right and wrong. And I still have some belief that that system has integrity.
Yeah. Now,
okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there. And I cannot disagree with what Devory Darkins is saying. I hope you agree with him. Also, I do, because it's like if you're a Democrat and you break the law, well, that's okay. It was just a minor thing. Okay, holding classified documents for decades, I believe there are laws against that. It doesn't matter. I would think that why would he need to hold these documents? I mean, I've worked at a lot of places, but I've not kept documents of theirs because these classified documents do belong to the government after I left those places. So I don't know. Let me show you here that this video comes from Devory Darkins. I am subscribed to his channel. I've given him a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. Let's jump back here and let's see what X22 report has with Mr. and Mrs. X. Deep State Antifa are planning an insurrection Trump has prepared the Countermeasures, episode 11. Now this is on Rumble Premium. I do have Rumble Premium because I have a Rumble Studio, and I pay for my Rumble Premium so I can do Rumble Studio, and so that I can start these videos for you, and they don't have advertisements at the beginning. I'm gonna have to skip through 5 seconds of 2 advertisements. That's one of the advantages of Rumble Premium. But at any rate, let's listen to Mr. and Mrs. X talk about Antifa and their planned insurrection.
And I want to welcome everyone to episode 11 of Mr. and Mrs. X. And with me, I have Mrs. X.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, thanks for joining us. And let's start off with what is happening right now, because I think this is going to build and build and build as time goes on. And I think Trump and his team, they're setting the stage for everything. And this has to do with Antifa and the Insurrection Act. And we could see that Antifa has been around for quite a while. And I think people started to realize or actually understand Antifa when they saw the BLM riots. All of a sudden at night, Antifa would come out, and there were many other people that joined them, and they would burn, loot, kill, maim, all those different things. And people started to realize, wait, what's going on here? Now, of course, the fake news, they covered for Antifa for quite a while. They said, no, there's no riots going on. That's a myth. Remember, Nadler said that when he was stopped out on the street. He said there was no riots whatsoever. But since then, the fake news cannot control the news, because people are getting their news from all over the place, and especially from social media. And people now can see the videos of what Antifa has been doing. There are citizen journalists on the streets filming Antifa every single day, and people now can see this. One of the individuals, which we mentioned before, was Andy No. He really went deep into Antifa, and Antifa continually said that they have no leaders. They're, just a grassroots movement, that there's nothing to it. But Trump, just recently, he's designated Antifa as a terrorist organization, and he had a round table where he said he's going to make Antifa, or designate them as, a foreign terrorist organization, and they're tracking down the funding and who is funding Antifa. And you can see there's a lot of different individuals that headed up Antifa. They're escaping to other countries right now, like Mark Bray. So we're starting to see that this movement is starting to build. And since Antifa, Trump has been continually pre-positioning the National Guard to multiple cities, and he continually mentions insurrectionists. He continually mentions the Insurrection Act. And once again, I think he's prepping and preparing for all of this. So what we want to do is we want to go back a little bit in time, and we want to talk about where the Insurrection Act came from, who used the Insurrection Act, and this goes all the way back to George Washington.
Yes. So the Insurrection Act, it allows the president to deploy troops domestically when there's rebellion, domestic violence, or illegal obstruction of federal law that state authorities can't handle. It was passed in 1789. It's mainly in Title 10 of the U.S. Code, sections 252 to 255. Basically, if a state requests help or can't suppress a serious uprising, like riots or armed resistance, the president can send in the military. Lincoln used it specifically during when the South was seceding, because states wouldn't comply during the Civil War. But it actually, like you said, it goes back even further. So we have about 11 presidents who used it roughly 30 times over the course of our history. So we have George Washington used it in 1794 for the Whiskey Rebellion, Thomas Jefferson in 1807 against Burr's Plot, Abraham Lincoln in 1861 to crush secession, Ulysses S. Grant twice in the 1870s against the Klan terror that was going on. He used it. Rutherford Hayes in 1877 for election riots. Dwight Eisenhower in 1957 to integrate Little Rock schools during segregation and what was going on then. Lyndon Johnson in 1963 for Alabama's civil rights chaos. Richard Nixon in 1970 to end Kent state unrest. and George H.W. Bush in 1992 for the LA riots. And President Trump threatened it in 2020 for protests, but he did back off at that time. And that's basically where we are now. So it was a lot more presidents than you would have initially thought. And like when I was researching anyway, I was surprised. I didn't realize how many times that our presidents did use that.
Amazing.
Use the Insurrection Act.
And I think that they needed the Insurrection Act because, again, since the birth of this nation, there's always been people that have been trying to stop this nation from continuing on, stop the nation from continuing with the freedom that we have today.
Yes.
And I think this is why they implemented all this, because they knew that there was going to be rebellions. They saw it throughout history. It's nothing new. And I think at this point in time, we have the same exact players once again. Now, they've created a criminal syndicate in this country. They've been in this country for quite a while, which we call the deep state players. And now, since Trump now is exposing their crimes, he's exposing the mayors, the governors, and exposing them how they'll protect the criminals, the illegals, the criminals, Antifa, how they'll protect them. The people are starting to understand and starting to realize, wait a minute, what is going on here? They're protecting these people and not the citizens of this country. And eventually what's going to happen is Trump is going to back them into a corner where they will lash out at the federal government, at the people of this country. And I think they're preparing to do that because Adam Schiff said something very, very interesting where he says that we can't rule out Trump launching a military strike on domestic groups. Now, I think it was yesterday, there was a car incident with DHS officers and other people, and it looks like they were swerving into the DHS vehicles. And I think what they're trying to do is they're trying to get the National Guard, ICE, I think they're trying to get them to do something. I think they're trying to put this on the fake news. I think they're trying to show, look, they made the first move, and now we're retaliating against the federal government. I think this is how they're trying to set it up. And this is why Trump has been talking about the Insurrection Act, talking about Antifa so much, because he knows that they're planning to do this.
I think what's scary as just somebody just watching this and seeing people's videos is seeing the level. I know they keep claiming they're not organized, but when you see our ICE agents out there, and these are very brave men and women that are out there, and these Antifa people are coming up in their face, they're throwing urine at them, they're shouting in their face, they're like almost touching them but not quite touching them, like you said, almost instigating, waiting for something to happen and be like, so then they can blame them. And then if they are arrested or detained, if it does go too far, you find out that there's actually even lawyers or people in the crowd that are part of Antifa and will help get them out quickly, and they're right back out on the street. So there's really no consequences for this kind of behavior. And I think what is important, as much as it's hard to watch, and I personally think it's going to get worse before it gets better, which is a scary thing to admit, but I believe that to be true, because I think we have to see as a nation that Antifa, I think, like what you said with his roundtable yesterday, President Trump is showing that I believe you. Like, I'm not saying that this hasn't been happening, that this isn't real. And I felt like so many of these on the streets investigative reporters that are not part of mainstream media feel so vindicated, because they're like, what we've been experiencing is real. We've been threatened. We've been assaulted. We've been attacked. We've been hurt. And nobody has been giving a you-know-what about it, And I think they finally feel that, okay, people are finally starting to notice that Antifa is a serious problem. Specifically, I mean, Portland's out of control. Like, that's a whole other...
Well, it's the hub of, their entire organization, if you really look at it.
Well, and I think it's a good example for people to see, like, this is how bad it can get. This is one location. But this has been spreading, obviously, this hateful behavior. But at the same time, I think we need to see it to wake up to the fact that this is a problem. And I don't believe that it's just American citizens that are just so unhappy. And, which brings us to insurgency, which we can get into, which is, when you have like this uprising against a government, but because, Biden allowed so many illegals in here to kind of do his bidding, because when you let people in for, not waiting on the line, not going through the proper channels, and you give them, oh, here's a gift card, here's a beautiful apartment, here, have this whole thing, here's here's
And they're
a
criminals.
license.
They have criminal records.
Yeah, they have criminal records, but that means, but you're basically buying their loyalty, so to speak.
That's what you're doing.
And then you have and then you're like, oh, hi, you want to be part of Antifa where you're going to cause chaos and mayhem? Of course I do. Well, sign me up, because this is what they're looking for, and they knew it. And this insurgency is definite. You can see it because the writing's on the wall. I mean, yes, I know that, Tom Homan and they're doing their best to deport, and they're having people self-deport, and that has been working. But I don't think we've realized how many people it has been over the course of time, and where they're at, and how well organized they are. So I agree with President Trump's plan and AG Bondi that we have to find the source of the money, because that's what's funding.
Absolutely.
Kash Patel even just said it. Follow the money. You have to follow the money. And all of these things, if you notice, it's the same theme as we keep talking about different topics each week. It's always a follow the money situation. And this is definitely one of those, because Antifa is a lot more organized than they've led you to believe. I mean, let's face it, like you said, our previous administration, they weren't even admitting that it was real. And here we are.
That is true. And you have to remember, the insurgency is not just Antifa. It's the entire organization. And I think when Trump designated Antifa as a terrorist organization, now he's going to be designating them as a foreign terrorist organization.
Good.
It's an organization. It's all those people that are behind the scenes, all those people that are funding the organization, all the different foreign governments that are involved with this. So the insurgency is not just, the 20 or 30 people that you see on the streets causing havoc. It's much, much bigger than this. And you have to remember, Trump, he's not just going to come out and say there is an insurrection. He actually needs these organizations, the foreign Antifa organization and the domestic Antifa organization, he needs them to actually move forward with the insurrection. Because if you're just on the streets and you're protesting, outside an ICE facility and you're blocking them, is that really considered an insurrection? Is that something that you could say, hey, you know what, we need the Insurrection Act?
No, I think that's a protest. And, we still live in America where you are allowed to
as long as they don't do harm or
yes,
anything
a peaceful protest. I'm all for it, But when you start blocking roads or blocking bridges or not allowing people to walk to their workplace,
yes,
then it starts to take on a different quality. And then also when you get into people are throwing, like a water balloon filled with urine, or throwing.
Well, see, that's an act of violence.
That's what I'm saying. But then, or then when they start throwing feces, this is part of their MO. When they have their get in your face kind of strategy, and they're screaming in your face, and it starts to take on a very different place. Aside from having a sign standing on a corner, or in front of a building, as long as it's in a public area. Obviously, I have no problem with protests. I mean, our country. That's one of the beautiful things about America. We have that freedom of speech, but you're not allowed for it to be unsafe where people are in danger or it's harming other people.
And I think we should just define what an insurgency is.
Okay. And it's a rebellion or uprising against an established government or authority, usually by a group using guerrilla tactics or asymmetric warfare to disrupt control and push for change, like independence or political reform. But that's the technical term of an insurgency. But then when, say, other countries or other powers, if they push illegal immigration into another country to create an insurgency, that's when it takes on a different tactic. And then that is when the consequences of that destabilize a country, because then you're talking about you're having undocumented people who might strain resources like jobs, housing, healthcare. Then what happens is locals or, citizens of that country would get unhappy because they're like, why are they getting all those things and I'm not getting those things now? It's very interesting. If those immigrants were organized or backed by foreign powers, that could turn into a place where they're going to try to weaken the government of the country that they go into, where you would have sabotage, protests, maybe armed uprisings, depending on how far it goes. And then that makes for a whole other problem and civil unrest in the country. And historically, when stuff like this happens, you get proxy wars. It doesn't go well. And then, you think about Antifa, put Antifa in that model, okay? If, say, a country let all these illegal immigrants come in, and then they call this group Antifa, and then what happens is You have violent propaganda, banners, training materials that look very organized. I mean, they have, I told you, they have workshops like in different places. There was one that they go to different places and they learn all these techniques. Like, you know, I mean, if you've seen enough of these videos, you ever see they all have umbrellas?
Yes.
Like, which is one of their tactics. And I have to say, it's very effective for, you know, if you notice, they all wear masks. Like they all, you know, they definitely hide their appearance, or they also know how to not talk when you have some of the brave press who go up in their face and say, hi, what are you here protesting today? And they're like, don't talk to them. And they're very stoic and they don't speak to you.
There always seems to be one person that's directing it all.
Yes.
Telling them, you know, stand back, don't talk to them, do
Yes.
this. And they also have lawyers on the ground. They're wearing the green caps.
Yes.
So, I mean, this is a very organized group. They're well funded. They have medics. So they know exactly what they're doing. So I do believe that Trump, he's pre-positioning everything right now because he knows they're going to take this to the next level. And you could see just by what Adam Schiff says about how Trump is going to attack civilians on the street. I think they want Trump to do, or one of, you know, ICE or National Guard or someone to do something. So this way the Antifa crew can say, look, and they're going to try to catch it all on film. And they're going to try to use this to basically then move forward with their agenda.
Absolutely.
Because I don't think they're going to, they might start it, but I think they're not just going to come out and start to attack everyone with weapons and things like that, because it would look very suspicious and people would say, well, wait a minute, you started this. So what the deep state players like to do is they try to provoke the other side into doing something, just like with this car chase, and one of the agents stuck out their weapon because the person was trying to ram them off the road. But of course, they don't tell you about that part. All they do is they show the picture of the weapon and they try to convince you, look, they're going to shoot us.
Right.
So this is what they're going to try to do. And this is how I do believe they're going to try to push the insurrection here. And this is what Trump has been preparing for. Now, since we have an insurgency, we also have a counterinsurgency.
Right. Well, you can talk more about that than
Okay,
I can,
the-
because that is very interesting, the counter.
The counterinsurgency is defined as a comprehensive civilian and military effort taken to simultaneously defeat and contain insurgency and address its root causes. So think about what Trump has done this entire time. He's basically taken control of the military. He has control of the military. And if you notice, he just had a get-together with the military, and he had them all in one place, and he was telling them, I have your back. We're fighting an enemy from within, which is infiltration from within, and he's preparing the military, letting them know that I'm on your side, I'm the commander-in-chief, we're not going across the seas to fight a foreign enemy. We have an enemy right here in this country. He just visited the Navy for their 250th birthday.
Yes.
And he gave the same speech there. So I think he's preparing the military because that's the counterinsurgency. The other part of it is we the people. Without we the people, he would not be able to do any of this stuff. I mean, think about it. Go back to 2016 to 2020.
Yeah.
If he came in with the military, if he came in with the National Guard, and he tried to do all the things that he's about to do, do you think the people would have been with him? No.
No way.
He had a lot of the people, but he didn't have the majority of the people. People were still listening to the fake news back then. If you notice, now it's very different. The fake news ratings have gone down dramatically. People aren't listening to them anymore. This is why Trump, from the very, very beginning, continually pushed the idea that they're fake news, and then people started to catch on, and people started to realize, wait a minute, they are fake news. They keep lying and lying and lying. You could see it during the election. You could see it with the 60-minute interview with Kamala Harris. You could see it with the Hunter Biden laptop. You could see it with everything. So he actually started this process a long time ago to get where we are today, especially with Biden being in the White House. It really woke a lot of people up. And now he's in the White House, and you're watching the judiciary, you're watching still the fake news. They're all on the side of Antifa. See, they're part of it too, because the fake news, they are the bullhorn for Antifa, for the deep state players. So it's, if you really look at it, it's those individuals in DC a lot of the prosecutors, a lot of the police in certain states, the fake news, like we said, the judges, all of this together is the insurgency. It's not just Antifa itself.
Right.
The insurrection is by all of these people. Now, Antifa just so happens to be their foot soldiers that they use. But all these other people, they're directing these individuals. They're supporting these individuals. And then, yes, then you have the funders.
Right. And I think it is a very interesting time, because if you look at what's going on in our government and this, how they're, quizzing Pam Bondi and just getting into it with her, and, and it's really interesting because you see Adam Schiff sitting there, and it's like, oh, pot kettle, the way that he's speaking to her about, you think about all the things he's done or allegedly he's done, but we all believe that he's done. And the way that they speak to her as if they're covering up, because they still want to go after President Trump just like they did in 2016. And I think that what's great about this administration this time around and his presidency this time around is he has the dream team behind him. And I noticed that they're handling it differently, and they're still using those old tactics to go against President Trump, and it's not working like it used to. Because like you said, the people are now on his side. The people are seeing that the fake news is the way that they're portraying President Trump and the way they're going into it. And then you look at this government shutdown that's going on right now, which is a problem. And it's very interesting because they're all still getting paid. I know Schumer's out there every day, whatever, but they're all still getting their paycheck. But guess who's not getting paid? Our soldiers, are the people that are out there every day. And it's a very interesting thing. And again, it just made me think of that when you were saying about how the president was talking to the military, the Navy, about their oath, about, all of that. And it's a reminder too here with that they're not getting paid, but they're still doing their job. And it's going to be an interesting time to see how long this shutdown goes on and what that's going to mean for our soldiers, our men and women that say, okay, but I have an oath to this country. And they will get back pay once our government eventually will be up and, it will be back to business as usual. But it's interesting to see who's going to stand by their oath, because this is an important time to, like you say, with the counterinsurgency, to say, no, I made an oath and this is my country and I'm going to do my job.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pause that there, folks. I'm like 23 minutes into this 49-minute video, so about halfway through, and it's great information all the way through. Let me go ahead and click on this Rumble link and show you that this video does come
by all of these
from X22 Report. This is the video I shared with you. I am following their channel. I've given them a thumbs up. I hope you do the same thing for me. I do want to share some information with you from 1775 Coffee before we move on. So let me get that started.
Still haven't tried 1775 Coffee? Now's your shot. The 1775 starter kit just dropped, only 1,000 units. You're getting the bold dark roast that hits hard, the smooth medium roast, and the Vitality Mushroom Coffee for clean energy and laser focus, no crash.
All single origin, small batch, toxin-free, and mold-free. Plus you're also getting a gold spoon clip because freedom isn't scooped with plastic. A frother strong enough to stir up your coffee and your mother-in-law's opinions. And a black 1775 tumbler.
$170 worth of coffee and gear. Yours for $99. This is for the ones who've been watching 1775 blow up on Rumble, wondering if it's actually worth it. Spoiler, it is.
Go to 1775coffee.com/studio and grab your starter kit before they're gone. Bold beans, clean fuel, and a morning routine that stands for something, just like Rumble does.
Okay, good information there, folks. Let me remind you that these videos that I've shared with you are videos that come directly from the producers. Wendy Bell, USA Watchdog, Devory Darkins, and X22 Report. I have the links to their videos here in the description box and the links to their channels if you want to go check out other information that they provide. I don't get any commissions or royalties for doing this. I just put this together to give you a nice variety of information that's out there. No nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. What you're not going to get on the mainstream media. And these videos that I've shared with you are videos that I've posted on Murtech.com, and the link to Murtech.com is in the description box as well. So there's the video from Devory Darkins that I shared with you. Down here's the video from USA Watchdog, Wendy Bell Radio, X22 Report. This is your one-stop shop for information that you're not going to get on the mainstream media. No nonsense, common sense, logic, and truth. I don't have time to share all of this with you in my 1-hour podcast, but I do have my daily news wrap-up coming up here about 9:30, where I have over 60 videos in it right now of information that's dropped all day long. Put that together in a nice playlist. Let me go ahead and update that. Go ahead and get Rumble Studio set up for my daily news wrap-up. So go ahead and take a break, grab a cup of coffee and a donut or a sandwich and a soft drink and a beer, and meet me back here at 9:30. But in the meantime, I do want to thank you for being here. Hopefully, I'll get to see you again later, and may God bless.